All right, the House Freedom Caucus in this town is probably one of the more influential groups of congressmen you could get, about 40-plus strong conservative congressmen who make it known how they feel, and they ride herd on anything that gets out of whack when it comes to spending. They put up with some things in the effort to get things through, but this latest $1.3 trillion emergency spending measure did not catch much favor with them. In fact, they support the president's efforts to rescind a lot out of that. With us right now is one of their champions, Mark Meadows, the House Freedom Caucus Chairman. Sir, very good to have you.
It's great to be with you, Neil. Hey, better surroundings than I normally get. We're here on the Senate side.
It's amazing the history in this room when you think about it and how this was all put together.
Right.
The tax cut and the sausage and all that made into the wee hours here. And you had your battles back and forth with the senators in this room that they were either watering it down or the tax cut wasn't as generous. It is what it is. We got it through. The president claims it's the biggest on record.
It is. I mean, it's a huge win in terms of the biggest legislative victory that we've seen.
That
probably
you're quite right on. So are you surprised? Here we are on tax day, Congressman, and it's not resonating in the polls. Now, they could be wrong. You and I were talking to the break about the silent majority who are liking to see that extra net in their pay, but that it hit a ceiling. It's definitely better than it was when it was launched. But now it's sort of peaked, and that you guys might not, that is Republicans, get the bang for the buck in November.
Well, the only reason you pass a piece of legislation is for the bang for the buck in November, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Hopefully we're doing it for those hardworking American taxpayers that says, we've been spending too much of your money, let's give some of it back to them on Main Street. And when we did that, obviously it had an initial bump. It's kind of like a pay raise. You get a bump immediately. Really, the long-term jury verdict that will come back is really what's going to happen to the economy between now and November. Talking to a lot of CEOs, they're very optimistic on what will happen, not only from the tax provision, but from the regulatory rollback. And so
why isn't that registering? And to your point, it might be, but it doesn't appear to be.
Well, it doesn't appear to necessarily be resonating with everyone because it's all, well, if you've accomplished this today, that's a great thing, but what are you going to do for me tomorrow and the next day and the next day? And I think
or it could be that Republicans dropped the ball on the one thing that was in their DNA or deemed to be in their DNA, cutting spending. You've done quite the opposite. You've out Democrats.
Yeah, this omnibus bill that was passed was probably a bigger spending measure, in fact, second only to the Obama stimulus package. And when you pass this kind of spending, when we increase the growth of government by 13%, moms and dads back home, your viewers didn't say, well, I got a 13% bump in my paycheck. How can you continue to spend that way in D.C.? So we've got to cut that back. As you know, the president is getting very...
He said he was shocked about what was in all that, and Mitch McConnell was surprised at that because he said the president, I hope I'm not misquoting him, did know what was in there.
Well, I think that some of the president's team were involved in the negotiations. I know the president wishes that he was involved personally in those negotiations.
Now he wants to rescind a lot of that.
Right, that's correct.
How far can he go?
Well, I don't think you can go the entire $63 billion that was an increase in non-defense discretionary, but I can tell you there are conversations that are happening literally at this hour on what can we roll back. And so I think if we look at a $10 to $15 billion recension package, that has a chance. Now, you're talking to senators. You've got a senator following here in just a few minutes that can weigh in on that particular thing. The appetite is more what's going to happen in the Senate. We can put up the 218 votes in the House. It's that 50-vote margin in the Senate.
But are you worried that in the House your days are numbered? Not you specifically, but that Republicans just aren't going to hold it together. This blue wave is coming. There was a congressman today making the 40th Republican who said he's not going to run. That's sounding like a jailbreak.
Well, it does sound like this wave that they're talking about. And if we sit here and do nothing between now and November, we will be sent home, and deservedly so. So here's what we've got to do: is we've got to make sure that not only do we continue and make the tax cuts permanent for individuals. I've got a bill that would do that. We need to vote on that. We need to make sure.
You think that'll actually going to happen, though?
I do think it could happen. I've kind of teamed up with a more moderate member member that has a more moderate district. I don't know that he's a more moderate member where we can actually work together. But we also need to do work requirements for those that are able-bodied without dependent children on some of these programs that are designed for assistance.
You want to do that, but of course now in the middle of this, you have Paul Ryan announcing he's leaving.
Right.
Do you think a conservative should get in that job? Do you like Kevin McCarthy or Steve Scalise? Are they not your cup of tea?
Well,
What?
I think there's not a race yet. I mean, obviously,
Would you be interested in it?
I'm not interested. I know that there's been talk about Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan. I think in all of that, we need to be more focused on what we get done. Then the speakership will take care of itself. It's all about making sure that every voice is heard.
Do you think this should be settled before next January?
Well,
I think Republicans to make a statement.
Well, I think that it could be, and yet the speaker is not going to leave. I talked to him today. He's planning to really deliver on these promises.
That's a mistake?
I don't think that's a mistake. I mean, he's announced it. He's hopefully going to give enough time to pass the baton. It's only a mistake.
You think a conservative should be in that grouping? You would be in that group. You're the chairman of this caucus.
Well, I think that
There's 40 votes right there.
Well, there's 40 votes. That's a long ways from the majority of our conference. But I do believe that the conservative voice needs to be heard, and whether it's
Would you want to be the Republican if it turns out the Democrats take the
you're a
House?
good journalist, and you keep hitting at this. It's never been on my it's never been on my bucket list to be in leadership. For me, it's all about delivering to those forgotten men and women that I have the honor and privilege of serving. And I got the best job representing Western North Carolina, but indeed, it is incumbent upon me to make sure that our voice is heard, the conservative voice is heard, so that we don't have a massive omnibus bill ever again.
All right, Congressman, thank you. Mark Meadows, the House Freedom Caucus chair, very influential fellow in this town, to put it mildly.